This is an extraordinary day for me to have had a green gig organized by and for youth in Central Nova to promote the Green Party and to promote the kind of change we want to see in the world. So the Greens do have a very different philosophy from other political parties. It's one of the reasons that Canadians are turning to us, and just the people who've come through here in the square this afternoon, a lot of people who may have not known that we were going to be having an event, heard the music and came down. I've had some really important conversations with people passing through New Glasgow Square today. Very moving conversations. One gentleman, I think about my age, maybe a little older, I'm 54, and that was about his age, and he wanted me to know that he's going back to Fort McMurray tomorrow, and he voted for me today. And he just said, please, whatever you do, we've got to get change to happen so that families aren't split up with people going to Fort McMurray for a couple of months and then back home, and what it does to the strain of families. And then when he heard me in the debates say, Stephen Harper, how can you say that you care about families? How can you try to wrap yourself in the idea that because you have kids, and yes, he's a family man, I know he's great to his own kids, but in the debates when he talked about unemployment, he couldn't bring himself to say he'd ever been unemployed. Did you notice? He said, I've been between jobs. There's a very different coded language to that than to understand what it's like to be unemployed, to know that your EI is running out, to know that when your EI runs out, you're not going to have a lot of options, to know that your welfare checks can't come if you've got enough assets. All the things that are happening to communities where people are hurting are happening on another planet from the one where Stephen Harper lives. When he talked about the U.S. financial crisis and how different it is in Canada in the debates, and that really threw me for a loop when he said, we're fine here. Nobody here's worried about losing their home. No one here's worried about how they're going to get through the month. And in my experience of campaigning door to door and for the last couple of years living in Pictou County, the numbers of people I meet who are very worried, who are very afraid, and the numbers of single moms I talk to who want to get themselves back into school, but the whole system works against them, puts up the barriers that one of the young women I was talking to had signed up for community college and then found that yes, they had childcare, but the childcare costs were simply beyond what she had begun to imagine she'd have to pay. She started trying to figure out, how can I get to school? How can I pay for the books? How can I get the childcare? The whole system blocks progress for people who want to have a good life and a better life for their kids. So a lot of what motivated me to go into politics was the climate crisis. But a lot of what makes me feel that I can do something for this community as your member of parliament is the human crisis, the family crisis, the fact that nobody speaks up for people who cease to become important to the politicians once they're elected. So the fight for social justice, the fight to get jobs here for families who live here, to respect the fact that Atlantic Canada, Nova Scotia, and particularly Pictou County, Antigonish County, and the Eastern Shore have a quality of life and a community integrity that simply gives us an advantage beyond money. It gives us the advantage of knowing our neighbors, knowing we can pull together. And those communities and our communities need a government that cares, need somebody representing them who will not let go of the fight to make sure that Trenton Works reopens, and reopens making rail cars. I'll settle for nothing less. We have to have Trenton Works reopen, making rail cars and running across this country, reducing greenhouse gases by delivering goods by freight in ways that make sense and stimulate our own economy here. We have a town hall tonight, I should mention, in Trenton at 7 o'clock if anyone wants to come. But that's so symptomatic to me of everything that's wrong with our economy, that a U.S. company could come in and take over a facility that's been there for decades and decades, used to employ thousands of people, and decide that because workers in Mexico earn $3 an hour, they're better off to pick up and take a plant like Trenton Works and take the jobs and move them to Mexico. One of the people going door to door that I talked to in the last few months was a young mom with little kids, and she explained to me that her husband was in Mexico because he worked at Trenton Works. He's been brought down to train the workers who are taking their jobs. And when that job's over, he's got no job on the horizon. He's trained the people who replace him, and they've got to keep trying to figure out how they're going to survive. So I will challenge Peter MacKay on his record. I'll challenge him for having left his community behind. I'll challenge anyone who decides that Atlantic Canada doesn't matter, and that contracts with Atlantic Canada, Nova Scotia, Newfoundland and Labrador aren't worth the paper they're written on because we're disrespected. We are one of the most privileged and beautiful places on this earth. Nova Scotians have a resilience, a culture, and an integrity that means we matter. We matter to Canada, we matter to the world. And as your Member of Parliament, I'll never let anyone forget. So I'm really grateful to your support. I'm so grateful to Justin and Corey, who are just sitting down here, Justin Smith, all the wonderful musicians who've joined us today. This is a hopeful and inspiring event. Anyone who thinks that politics doesn't matter, that politicians are just a certain kind of breed that you don't want to get to know too well, this is different. This is democracy. This is taking back our country. This is taking back your power as citizens, because citizens are in charge in a democracy. You've probably heard me say it before. I'll say it as often as it takes to get the message through. Forget politics. Just forget about politics. Hey, Chris, we just forget about it. This is democracy. Get out, help me, help people who haven't been able to believe in anything for a long time. But now's the time to believe, to grab that hope, to grab back your power, to get to the polls, to vote Green, because the message we need to get out in the next 10 days is simple. I can win here. I can win here. I'll be your Member of Parliament, and we will leave all the pundits and all the people who said it couldn't be done completely baffled, because I can win here and I will win here with your help. Thank you so much. God bless you.